we're going to hit every single Sunday matchup and help you identify the starts, sits, and sleepers in each game. We start with a game that seems like the favorite to be a big source of fantasy points this week. Dallas at Atlanta. Rank, who has your attention here?
Well, I'm going to go with Michael Gallup because I know a lot of people have probably been burned by him so far this season. But if there is an opportunity for him to really break out, it's going to be against the Seattle Seahawks, who've allowed the most fantasy points to wide receivers this season. So if you've been stung a little bit, don't worry about it. This is a great start for Michael Gallup.
Yeah, I'm going to say this is going to be a must start for DK Metcalf. Listen, you're going to have to score points to beat Russell Wilson. You're going to have to score points to beat the Dallas Cowboys, who put up 40 last week. I think that Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf connect on a couple of these big-time plays down the field.
Elsewhere, as we look at Green Bay and New Orleans, this is the battle of the veteran quarterbacks, Marcus.
Yeah, right now I'm saying maybe sit Drew Brees. The first couple of weeks have not been great. He's had fewer than 15.5 fantasy points in both of the games he's played this season. A lot of it is that he has struggled on his downfield throws, just has not been good on anything more than 10 yards beyond the line of scrimmage. And now he's facing a Packer defense that's given up fewer than 250 passing yards in both of their games. This offense just looks a lot different without Michael Thomas. And until he gets back, I think I might be fading Drew Brees.
Speaking of number one receivers, Devontae Adams doubtful here. MJD, what does that mean?
Well, that means I'm going to start MVS, but I was going to start him either way because I just think the number two receiver, any offense is going to go against the Saints is going to kind of have a day. Well, with Devontae Adams out, expect the targets to pick up for MVS and expect him to use some of that speed down the field as they try to stretch this Saints defense as we see here.
All right, we got two undefeated squads, the Rams and the Bills in Buffalo. And I know we've been gassing up Josh Allen. I have as well. I'm going to go beware here for the explosive quarterback, mainly because if you're banking on this 27 to 30-point game from Allen like you've seen all season, I don't think it's coming against this, perhaps the best Rams defense they've had since the Super Bowl, giving up just 15 points a game to opposing quarterbacks.
You know, I would like to agree with you, Patrick, but Bills Mafia already thinks I have it in for him, so I'm not going to do anything of the sort. I will say, though, perhaps if I can curry favor with them, to sit Jared Goff, because, again, this is also a tough matchup for this Rams quarterback. The Bills have allowed 18 touchdown passes since the beginning of 2019. That's third fewest in the league, and we're just not seeing the Rams throw the ball as we would like. They've attempted 29 passes per game, which is 30th amongst all quarterbacks.
Let's go to the Lions and the Cardinals in the desert. MJD, what you got?
I'm going to say my sleeper pick here is going to be TJ Hawkinson. I think, again, with Galladay coming back, you have Marvin Jones who put up numbers. He is going to be the guy that's going to be forgotten about, especially some targets like this. In the red zone, you may get a touchdown or two in this game.
For the home team, I think you've got to go with Kenyon Drake here as a hammer start. Let's say that you were disappointed early on and you felt agitated when Kenyon Drake got on Twitter and told you, the fantasy player, to drop him if you were so mad about it. Get out of your feelings. Put him in your lineup against the team that gave Aaron Jones 46 points. Showdowns continue with the Raiders and the Patriots as we welcome back Marcus Grant and Maurice Jones-Drew. MJD, who are we looking at in Cam against your old squad?
Well, it has to be Julian Edelman, and I appreciate you. That was with the Raiders for like 8 months, but it's neither here nor there. Julian Edelman may have a day. It seems like him and Cam, they've got back. They've come on the right. They're in the same book on the right page as we see here. 179 receiving yards for Julian Edelman, and then guess what? The Raiders have given it up a little bit in the passing game. I think Julian Edelman is going to have a huge day. Must start.
Well, if you are looking for a deep sleeper, might be time to go Rex in effect. Rex Burkhead is the leader in backfield snaps there in New England. Now, admittedly, there was no James White for the team in week 2, but White and Burkhead had an equal snap share in the season opener. Now they're facing a Raiders defense that's given up the second most fantasy points per game to running backs. They've allowed the most receiving yards to running backs as well, so I wouldn't be surprised if you see Cam sort of using Rex Burkhead as a nice outlet to get the football to, and he has a pretty good day.
Let's New Jack swing it over to the Bears and the Falcons, two good fantasy offenses. One surprisingly so against a surprisingly bad defense. And that's why you start Jimmy Graham here. He's up against the defense that's giving up 22 points a game to opposing tight ends. And nothing against Greg Olsen or Dalton Schultz, but I do think Jimmy can equal some of that output.
Yeah, I have a sleeper for you in this game, Patrick, and his name is Hayden Hurst. And then I'll tell you what, we don't know what Julio's going to be able to do in this situation. We don't know if he's going to play. We know Calvin Ridley is going to have a game, but Hayden Hurst in this offense, the tight end is going to get a ton of opportunities. And the Chicago Bears are allowing the second most receiving receptions a game since 2019 to tight ends. I think this is a good sneaky matchup for Hayden Hurst.
And the Houston Texans traveling to the Steel City as their tough schedule continues. What you got there, Marcus?
Yeah, I'm saying to beware of Deshaun Watson. You talk about that tough schedule. I mean, they have to start with the Chiefs, then they follow that up with the Ravens, and now they've got the Steelers. No team has gotten quarterback pressures at a higher rate than the Pittsburgh Steelers so far this year. That's bad news for Deshaun Watson, who generally seems to get sacked a lot. He's already been sacked 8 times through the first 2 games of the year. This could be a game where the Texans sort of become one-dimensional, have to throw the football a lot. That only bodes even better for that Steelers defense if they can come after Deshaun. So you may not have a better option available to you, but this is one where I would be worried about his production.
Marcus, you said that so eloquently, and you said it so well that I have to say this. Start the Steelers defense if you have them. Again, I just think the Houston Texans, they don't have enough weapons to help Deshaun Watson. As you said, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're blitzing the quarterback 52% of the time. So they're trying to get after, obviously, any quarterback, especially Deshaun Watson. So it just seems to me that these guys are just playing at a high level right now. If you have them like I do, you better play them.
Joe Burrow is going to have to go up against them at some point twice this season. His team's going to meet against the Wentz wagon. Marcus, who are you starting?
I'm starting Miles Sanders. Make sure you get him in your lineup. Last week against the Rams, he had 27 total opportunities. He had 20 carries, 7 targets, and ended up with 3 receptions in that game. This Philly offense is desperately in need of some playmakers. And I think more importantly, they need some easy targets to try and get Carson Wentz going. He's had a rough start to the season. Cincinnati's given up the 4th most rushing yards. They still aren't likely to have Mike Daniels or Geno Atkins up front, so there should be room for Sanders to really get going.
Well, I have a sleeper in this game, and his name is Deshaun Jackson. I think he's going to take the top off in this. The Cincinnati Bengals are allowing 15 yards of reception this season, second most in the NFL. You want to talk about the big play that the Eagles are trying to get to. Well, if that pass rush, if they can hold up against this pass rush, which we've seen the Cleveland Browns take advantage of on Thursday night, last Thursday, don't be surprised if you see Deshaun Jackson catching a couple of deep passes down the middle of the field.
Let's get to more game previews here. Panthers against the Chargers. There's a trend forming with the Panthers defense that you should probably know about, Marcus.
That's right. The trend is start your running backs against the Carolina Panthers defense. They've given up the most fantasy points to the position through their first couple games this season. And look, whether it's Austin Eckler or Joshua Kelly, I think both of them are primed to have big weeks. They're both averaging more than 18 touches per game. And the good news is that last week with Justin Herbert at quarterback, both those guys saw more targets. So there should be some more opportunities for both of them to contribute through the passing game this week.
And that's a big part of the reason that I'm telling you to get on board with Robbie Anderson in this offense this week and maybe every week, because they're going to need to throw the ball as they can't stop the run or much else. This is the man getting the targets from Teddy Bridgewater, 18 of them through the first 2 games. Get Robbie again in the lineup this week. Let's look over to another matchup here, the Niners and the Giants, 2 teams that have dealt with a wealth of injuries thus far. MJD, what do you see?
You can read it. It says must start. Jerick McKinnon. Let's not forget that the Niners gave him a huge contract coming out of when he was in Minnesota to come to the Niners. They're obviously going to run the ball a ton with Nick Mullins at quarterback, but expect him to catch a lot of passes out of the backfield as well. Maybe even a little wildcat. I have a feeling that the Niners are going to get very creative this week.
Yeah, they might have to. For me, let's see what we got. Reading it. It's beware of Devontae Freeman. I know you were excited to get that waiver claim on him. Everyone loves volume, but this is a team that is last in the league in carries at about 19 a game. So how many of those carries do you really think Devontae Freeman is truly going to get here after landing just a few days ago? He's a pickup that's going to be good, perhaps for the rest of the season. Not against San Fran on Sunday. We'll leave there and look over at Tampa Bay against Denver. Rank, any faith in the GOAT this week?
No. I'm going to say sit Tom Brady. And I know a lot of people are having fun with. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Listen.
What?
I know a lot of people are. MJD, I'm telling you to sit him. Listen, your 55 touchdown thing is not happening. And I know for everybody who loves to point out, like, you told me to start Gardner Minshew over him. Yeah, I'm not sure that that's wrong yet. So I would sit Tom Brady.
What?
So there's no Sutton. There's no Jeff Driscoll, perhaps no 55 touchdowns for Tom Brady. There's a lot going on in the Denver offense, but the constant this season so far is Jerry Jeudy. We'll start with that game between the Titans and the Vikings, Michael. Who else are you feeling pretty good about?
I would start Ryan Tannehill with confidence this week. Since he has taken over as the starter for the Tennessee Titans, he has just one game with less than 17 fantasy points. He has 9 straight games with multiple passing touchdowns in it. That's really impressive. And then he has a great matchup too. The Vikings have allowed the 5th most passing yards per game to QBs and the 3rd most passing touchdowns. So for me, Ryan Tannehill comes in as a top 10 quarterback this week.
Over on the other side, the demise of this Vikings offense is real, and I think you see a Kirk Cousins that's riding a struggle session, the likes of which his career hasn't yet seen. And I know everybody took Adam Thielen to be the volume guy, and maybe garbage time can come through as it did for you in week 1, but week 2 didn't work out for you. And it's just not fun to have to wait on a guy you drafted to be one of your best receivers to have some success in garbage time. Tough. I'm sitting Adam Thielen this week. Elsewhere, we got a rematch of Super Bowl III, Jets and Colts in Indianapolis, Marcus.
Yeah, I'm calling the Colts a sleeper defense, although I think if you look at their salary on DraftKings this week, that might not exactly be the case. But you know what? They're facing a Jets offense that's averaging just 215 yards per game through the first 2 weeks. The only fully healthy receivers on their roster going into this game are Chris Hogan and Josh Malone. Braxton Berrios is questionable, and as much as I love Frank Gore, I don't really have any faith that he can carry this offense at his age. Colts have given up the fewest total yards through 2 weeks, 3rd most sacks. Make sure you get them in your lineup where you can.
And for me, I know folks were burned by putting Nyheim Hines maybe in their last flex spot last week. You needed about 8 or 9 points and got 1 catch for 4 yards. Worry not. I think the usage at the running back position last week was an anomaly. Hines gets more action, maybe a touchdown against the Jets. And remember, folks, he has more catches at the running back position than almost everybody in the NFL this season. Last but not least, guys, we got the football team against the Browns. And Florio, you've got a little bit of a surprise for us here.
Yeah, I'm saying beware Nick Chubb. I know in most seasonal leagues you won't be able to bench him, but I would avoid him in daily. The Washington football team is allowing the 2nd fewest fantasy points per game to running backs this season and just 73 rushing yards per game. So my fear is that if the Browns can't get success on the ground, they look to throw more to the running backs, and we know that's going to help Kareem Hunt as we saw in week 1.
Yeah, Florio, I'm going to take what you're saying. I'm going to say start OBJ. I know he came out this week and was like, hey, I'm not going to get as many yards and touchdowns. That's how you play coy. Hey, don't throw me the ball. I just want to win. No, throw him the ball. This week, he's going to have a huge game because the Washington football team so good at stopping the run. It's going to open up the pass for those guys.